method of trellising tomatoes in fields. We also use like overhead trellising in our greenhouses, but this one works for like more of a garden scale or anything where you don't have like an upright structure, or you don't want to build an upright structure. All it takes is some T-posts and some twine. So we pounded our T-posts at about 10 feet distance, though this one's like a maybe 5 feet distance. So maybe even a little bit more accurate for what folks might see in their own gardens, like with just a few tomatoes. This tomato, or between these two T-posts, we have 2 tomatoes. So I'm gonna weave this in and out of them. These tomatoes are way too big. I should have done this months ago. So don't wait this long. But if you do, it's still possible because tomatoes are crazy vigorous. So I started by trellising between those 2 posts, and then I treated this T-post like a tomato by going weaving underneath it. I can see that by where the string is. So now I'm gonna weave over this tomato. And if my tomatoes weren't so fucking gigantic, then the string would not get caught in them. So that's too bad, but we're doing it. We're doing it. And give this one a hug by picking it up. You'll notice the tomatoes are doing fine because tomatoes don't need to be trellised in order to grow. In fact, no plants do. We trellis for us. We trellis so to make it easier for us and so that we get better, higher yields from our tomatoes. But clearly they do what the fuck they want. So I went, under that T-post, over that T-post, under that T-post, and then now I'm gonna tighten her up and make a few wraps. So I'm like holding it with my hand along the base, and I'm going to wrap it 1, 2, 3 times around, paying attention to the way I'm already wrapping it so that I can just fortify that. And then once the wraps are made over one another between the 2 teeth of the T-post, if I let go because of the friction, it'll stay and it'll give me a little bit more, give me a little break with my hands and a little bit more mobility. So then I will continue on all the way that way, or let's say in this case, this is all the tomatoes I have. I like to keep my string I like to work toward my string because then it's not in the way behind me. I'm not dragging her along with me. But now that I've weaved above this T-post, I'll make my way back. And I went below this tomato, so now I will go above this tomato. This tomato, and you see I'm making a basket or like a little cage. And now I'm gonna have to pull even tighter, and as I pull you'll see the plants are kind of like moving upright. That's because they want to stay in their little cage. And once I've hit this T-post, before I went below the T-post and now I go above, and that's what creates this X. The X gives us the tension we need in order for it to hold itself up. 1, 2, 3 wraps around, and then I keep my tension as tight as possible, wrapping around, following the wraps, and continuing on with my hug strategy. We used to trellis tomatillos this way as well, but I find tomatillos to be really brittle. Tomatoes are, like, the vines are a lot more malleable. I mean, tomatoes are vines, so that's one thing. Tomatillos are a bush. I highly recommend cages if you're in a garden for a tomatillo. But on a farm scale, I never loved how many branches on the tomatillos I would break by trellising them this way. Whereas the tomatoes, they kind of just bend. So I'm, hugging, moving, twisting, pulling, bop it, twist it, and then above this one and below this one. saw this guy on the internet doing this with a line of PVC pipe. I'm thinking about trying that, like put PVC over the twine so you can use it like as a wand. Never done it, but might try it. And now I'm pulling just as fucking tight as I can because it will stretch and I will lose tension. So now I wrap. And I always find it easier to hold the tension if I'm like bracing against the T-post. 1, 2, 3. So you'd never just like hold it like this. Like your arm is not as strong as physics. Physics, physics, physics makes us all as bitches. And if you got a like row of 100 feet, in order to just like do less work, I would highly recommend going all the way down and then all the way back, because then you only have to make one cut. But I wanted to show you at a small scale, so we just did a 15 feet, and then now I'm just tightening it as tight as with as many whatever knots I want. I'm using an overhand knot because I'm simple. And hopefully, as we continue on and put more trellising lines there, we'll be able to maintain our pathway and like harvest in our harvest bins and push them ahead of us without damaging the plants.